What is happening, guys? Happy Wednesday and welcome to the Dynasty WarZone, the People's Dynasty podcast. On today's show, we're going to give you a Dynasty nugget, a Dynasty take from each and every game from week 2. And no co-host tonight. There is no man of the hour. There is no man with the power. Jerry Sinclair got caught up in a work situation. Now, he did threaten to later in the show do a run-in. You know, I'm not planning on him. It's like when you watched old school professional wrestling, they said Stone Cold Steve Austin's not even supposed to be in the building tonight. And then inevitably within like the last 15 minutes of the show, here he comes running in to just close the show out strong. I'm hoping that's what Jerry does for me tonight. But if not, I've got a full show for you. My goal is to give you between 40 and 60 good minutes of Dynasty podcasting gold. If you're watching live on YouTube, you can go ahead and start throwing some questions in the comments. And I'll do what I've been doing with my co-hosts, Johnny Tuma and Evan Ringler, on the Sleep Stream Stash Show, which streams live on Friday afternoons, 3:30 Eastern. And thank you to everybody who's made that show a success right out of the gate. It's been a lot of fun. I love working with new people, and they're not new to the industry. They're just new to me, but I love the chemistry. I love my co-host, Evan and Johnny. This week, they'll be without me. I'll be on vacation, but I will be back for week 4 and more. But let's get into this week's show. I've got a little topic for you before I jump into good people, bad tweets, before I jump into a Dynasty nugget from each and every game. And there's a lot going on with the class of 2024 from a quarterback perspective. I'm not going to talk about running backs, wide receivers, tight ends from that class, but I am going to talk about the quarterbacks. And there has been some concerns with the play of a couple of them. So from a dynasty standpoint, which is what we all love, dynasty fantasy football, I think it's fair to say that both Bo Nix and Jaden Daniels are hits. I have a slight bit more concern about Jaden Daniels, not because he's not a good football player. It's just because he's injured again. And I don't think he missed any significant time last year. I remember he had a slight injury, and I think he played through it in a game that they won. Not a big guy. You know, he was compared to a better throwing version of Lamar. A better thrower, maybe not as good of a runner, but the one thing that I'd love to see him do is like be less involved in contact. For whatever you think about Lamar, his running style, Lamar does a tremendous job of avoiding serious contact. And that's why he's been so sustainable. He had a couple of back-to-back fluky seasons where he missed 4 or 5 games in 2 seasons. But for the majority of his career, Lamar has been very, very durable. So for what I'm talking about, you could consider Bo Nix and Jaden Daniels safe. Their hits. They're top 12 dynasty QBs. You feel very comfortable about those. I'm going to consider Michael Penix Jr. and Drake May incomplete. I loved what I saw from Penix week 1. A lot of passing yards. I really like to see them get an additional skill weapon. Also, Mooney's not been 100% healthy. I don't think Kyle Pitts is ever really going to be a thing. He could be a thing. I don't know. And then Drake May. I really want to see Drake May with, I think he's got a good play caller. I think Josh McDaniels will be a good fit for him. Kayshon Boutte has flashed. If you listened to the show a couple of weeks ago, you know I love Hunter Henry. Stephon Diggs is washed. But this is a team that will probably finish somewhere around 500. If I remember correctly, their Vegas win total was 8.5. And they'll probably finish right in there. I'd say somewhere between 7 and 9 wins. And they'll probably be picking in the 2026 draft somewhere in the 12 to 16 range if I had to pick it today. And I'd love to see them go out and get like the top wide receiver in the class or the best wide receiver available for Drake May. Or I don't know if there's a tight end in this class that could be a Tyler Warren, but just someone that could be an A-plus pass catcher. But for now, based on the short term that I've seen, is I'm going to call these 2 incomplete. And I'm not going to call the next 2 guys, I'm not going to call them out-and-out busts. I don't think that would be fair, especially to J.J. McCarthy. But if you're in Dynasty, which is the game we all play, the game we all love, you have to be concerned. First of all, let's just start with injuries. He missed his entire rookie season with the meniscus tear. He had a surgery. He had a second surgery. And then he's played 8 quarters, and he's going to miss the next 2 to 4 games. And I'll tell you right now, you will not see J.J. McCarthy back on the field until the Vikings get back from their overseas trip. They played 2 Europe games this year. I think they're both in England, but it could be one in England, one in Germany. But they play this week against the Bengals. Carson Wentz versus Jake Browning, just like we drew it up in May. And then they go across the pond and they play the Steelers, and then they stay across the pond and they play the Browns. And I don't know that's the order. It could be Browns, then Steelers, but those are the 2 teams. So you're not going to see J.J. McCarthy back on an NFL field until week 6, out this week. Likely won't play overseas in week 4 or 5. They're going to take the bye in week 6. You're not going to see him till week 7. And then what do we see? And then the bigger thing is what if Carson Wentz plays well? What if Carson Wentz comes in and does in this Kevin O'Connell offense what Sam Darnold did last year, or what Kirk Cousins did in this offense? This offense is made for professional quarterbacks just to come in and shine. And the last time, I know everybody, Carson Wentz, 6th team in 6 seasons. That's true. But he was the full-time starter in Indianapolis. And I'll remind you that in that season, he 27 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. So I have a ton of concerns about J.J. McCarthy from a dynasty standpoint, and then Caleb Williams. I think Caleb Williams is going to go down in this long line of quarterbacks like Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold. For whatever reason, Trevor Lawrence has managed to stay with the Jags. Probably should be on a second team. Mac Jones is getting another opportunity. Sam Darnold. I mean, the list goes on and on. I just don't think that he works. He works in the NFL. He being Caleb Williams. He works in the NFL, but I don't think he works in Ben Johnson's offense. He wants a guy to see it, throw it. And Caleb is a very good improviser. And there's going to be busts in this class, the class of 2024. I mean, it's inevitable. I pulled this up, a little AI research assistant here, and I asked the question. I said, what percentage of NFL quarterbacks bust per rookie class? And here's what I got. It says most quarterback analysts usually call a quarterback a bust if they're drafted highly, rounds 1 or 2, get a real chance to start, and fail to produce above average play or to stay in the league as a starter for more than a few seasons. By that definition, history shows first-round QBs bust at a 50 to 60% rate. Second-round QBs bust at a 70 to 80% rate. And then mid to late round QBs bust at 90+%. Very rarely do you find the cases of Tom Brady, Dak Prescott, Kirk Cousins, Brock Purdy. So just doing the simple math, all 6 of these guys were first-round quarterbacks last year. The math says 3 of them are going to bust. And if we feel really safe about Bo Nix, and we feel really safe about Jaden Daniels, and we like what we've seen out of Drake May and Michael Penix Jr., guys, someone's going to bust. So I'm not telling you to take action. I was just thinking about this from Dynasty, and there's been so much hype on this class. I will get into all the nuggets by team, but if you're looking for something that hasn't been a bust and I actually got a chance to dive into over the weekend, check out Fast Draft.
Pour one out for an incredible best ball season. It was a breakout 2025 for Fast Draft, but now the NFL action has started. That means it's DFS season. That's right. You might think, oh, wow, DFS, I can't win DFS. Oh, but you can on Fast Draft. You just pick any 6 guys, and you put them in a handful of booster spots. There's no salary rubric you have to follow. You're not going up against thousands of killer bots in these tournaments. Oh, no. These are regular people grabbing their 6 favorite plays of the week, and that's all you have to do. And we post the ownership so that you can choose how much chalk you want. There is no drafting. It's called the Quick 6 Super Slam. The Quick 6 Super Slam is the signature DFS contest at Fast Draft. It is changing DFS. We are making DFS great again. So go to fastdraft.app and use your host promo code for a $50 deposit match. And let's go start drafting faster.
So a fun story from a Fast Draft perspective. So I was in Ohio, where Fast Draft is completely 100% wide open. If you live in the great state of Ohio, the Buckeye State, jump on Fast Draft, use promo code WarZone. And I went back to the Derrick Henry well. I saw that quote last week from Grant Delpit talking about Derrick Henry wasn't that hard to tackle. And I thought, man, Derrick Henry is going to put a whooping on that man. And yeah, well, if you watch the box score, it was not the Buffalo Bills game. I wish I had went back to the Jonathan Taylor well. JT having a great start to the season. But if you're not having a great start to the season and you're looking for something to keep fantasy football fun, check out Fast Draft. You use the promo code WarZone. That's all caps, all one word, WarZone. You'll get a $1 for $1 match up to $50, and you can jump into Quick Six and play alongside people like me when I'm in Ohio visiting my son. All right, let's jump into good people interesting tweets, because this ties back to one of my takes later in the show. And usually Twitter X is a cornucopia, a bonanza. It's wide open with horrible takes, but I just didn't see any. And but I saw this. And this is from Maserati Marv. And Maserati Marv shared a video of Kyler Murray. And this is Kyler Murray on Marvin Harrison Jr.'s target issue. And Kyler says, "There's only one ball. And I've said before, I wish I could get all my guys 10 or more targets. Sometimes Marv's going to get 10, and other times he's going to get 3. It is what it is." Now, from an actual NFL standpoint, I dig it. I completely dig it. I think that's winning football. The Cardinals are off to a good start on the season. I know they'd love to get to the playoffs. And, you know, I think Kyler's looking for some validation as a winning quarterback, because he was a winning quarterback to start his career. Last couple of years have been a little bit rough. And I think that's the right mindset of a quarterback. It's like you would love to get all your guys involved. And I've talked about plenty of teams with tons of target, competition. But for Dynasty, this is a yikes. I'm going to talk about Marvin later in the show. I just brought this up as an aside because it's going to tie into a take. It ties into a previous take. So I wanted to have a good people, bad tweets. So I'm not giving this to Maserati Marv, but I am going to give this to Kyler, because he can't get Marv more involved.
I'm going to tell you this. It was a huge fucking clusterfuck.
Yeah.
Completely fucking irresponsible. A shit show. Dangerous, stupid, irresponsible, and just completely fucking ridiculous.
Yep. That's how I feel about Kyler's opinion from a dynasty standpoint, a fantasy standpoint about Marv. Get Marv the ball, but I'm getting out of the Marv business. I'll talk more about Marv as I jump later into the show sheet. I just took these things right out of the order of which the games were played. So I'm going to give you a nugget. We have 16 games, no bye weeks yet. So I've got 16 games. I've got 16 dynasty takes. Some will take longer than others. And let's jump right into it. Thursday night football. Man, are the Packers a good-ass team? And I don't know if it's just the addition of Micah Parsons, but goodness gracious, they whooped him. I mean, just whooped him. And it didn't look relatively close. And I'm not freaking out on Bill or Terry McLaurin, Daniels, although Daniels will likely miss this week. But, man, you got to be impressed with the Packers. Came out today that not only did Jaden Reed have surgery, he had 2 surgeries. He had a Jones fracture in his foot repaired, and then he had his clavicle repaired. So you're probably not going to see him until post-Thanksgiving. From a Jaden Daniels standpoint, I think he could be the wide receiver 1 on this team. But the pass catcher 1 on this team is Tucker Kraft. That is a full-grown man. I know the dynasty and the fantasy world have been hyping up Tyler Warren, and justifiably so. Tyler Warren's been kicking ass, but man, Tucker Kraft has been kicking ass too. And this came up in our Patreon group chat the other day, and patreon.com/Dynasty WarZone if you want to be in the chat, as well as get other stuff included. I asked the question, is it too early to call Tucker Kraft a top 5 tight end in a dynasty startup. And after consensus, it's like, we talked about it for a little bit in the chat, and I was like, I'm content if you draft him 3 to 5 overall. 3 to 5 overall. If you tell me, because I think as of today, you got to put Brock Bowers 1 and Trey McBride 2. And they're really more like 1A, 1B. And then it's some combination of Tyler Warren, Sam Laporte, and Tucker Kraft. And I don't blame you for picking any of those 5. You know, depends on where you draft in a dynasty startup. You're only going to get a shot at one of the 5. But I think there is a clear line between those 5 guys and the rest of the tight ends. But I think it's time to put Tucker Kraft. I'm going to put him in my personal top 5 at the dynasty tight end position. Let's go Cowboys hosting the Giants, a guy that I love. And if you don't have one of those top 5 tight ends and you're looking to compete, and maybe you don't want to invest a bunch of draft capital in a guy that's got a higher reputation. Like, I mean, people still like Kyle Pitts. I don't like Kyle Pitts. George Kittle's always injured. Go get Jake Turd Ferguson. I love Jake Ferguson. I was more bullish on Ferguson, to be quite honest, before the Cowboys went out and got George Pickens. I mean, George Pickens, if you're in a points per pass interference penalties drawn, I mean, George Pickens, and if you get bonus points for fighting defensive backs, George Pickens is the 101. But if you're in a tight end premium league where you get 1.5 to 1.75 points per reception, dude, Jake Ferguson is got to be on your radar. And he is dirt cheap. Over at Player Profiler, he's tight end 17. Tight end 17. He leads all. When we just talked about Bowers, McBride, Warren, Laporta, we talked about all these guys. And Jake Ferguson has more receptions through 2 games. Let's throw that caveat out there. Through 2 games, he's got more receptions than all of them. Dallas's defense is going to be absolute trash. They were going to be the NFC equivalent of the Browns, where you've got the Bengals, where you've got Chase and Higgins and Burrow, and then maybe a little something from Gesicki and Fant. And then there's Dallas. It's the exact same thing. That defense is trash. They made Russell Wilson look like peak prime Seattle Russell Wilson this past weekend. And they're going to be behind. They're going to be in shootouts. Jake Ferguson, he's going behind in Dynasty. He is ranked behind guys like Mason Taylor, washed Travis Kelce, hurt and still in the mix with Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely. And Jake Ferguson is 26 years old. He is an absolute steal. He is a guy that is probably someone's 2nd or 3rd tight end. And if you're in a spot and you want to add real points to a contending roster, man, go out and in a tight end premium, you probably got to throw a 2nd. If you just need it like in a straight up PPR, throw a 3rd. Go get steady production in season. You wouldn't get that back for him in the rookie season. It's a good fantasy offense. It's going to put up points. I've always liked Jake Ferguson, and he just doesn't get the love because it's not a sexy name. Let's go to Seattle. Let's go to Pittsburgh hosting Seattle. And this is why you don't manage your dynasty rosters week to week. After week 1, it was on internet, it was on Dynasty podcast, it was on fantasy shows. Zach Charbonnet, the old Charbonnet, he was going to come in and take Kenneth Walker's lunch money. And how'd that work out? You know, it's without question that every coaching staff is going to choose Kenneth Walker over Zach Charbonnet. He's just better. The only issue with Zach Charbonnet, it's like that meme from Moneyball where the Jonah Hill character, I think that guy's name starts with a P and he was with the Mets now, but whatever. He's looking at Brad Pitt's character. He's like, this is so-and-so, and this is his flaw. And I feel like the Jonah Hill. This is Kenneth Walker. He's a really good running back, maybe one of the top 5 or 6 most talented running backs in the National Football League. The problem is he's always hurt. That's the risk you'll take. Kenneth Walker, contract year, by the way, same as Breece Hall. If you can find people that are sleeping on this guy, go out and get him. I'm throwing out 2026 Superflex seconds to get him. I wouldn't give up a first, but This is why you don't manage your dynasty roster week to week. You're bound to wind up getting your ass kicked because you're just going to make rash decisions. Let's go Rams at Titans. The Rams went to Tennessee, and there is not a single Tennessee Titans pass catcher worth rostering on the Titans not named Alec Aomanor going forward. And I'm not even sure about him. He may get hot. He may have like a Cedric Tillman type buzz to him going into 2026. But kind of like I said earlier when I was talking about the quarterbacks from last year, I expect Tennessee to go out and add a stud. I don't know that this front office and ownership group can do that. They've busted on Treylon Burks. I mean, Calvin Ridley, everybody, the redraft and best ball bros were so big on Calvin Ridley blowing up this year. It just hasn't happened. I'm very disappointed in that offensive line. I'm very disappointed in that offense. I thought Brian Callahan would have done a much better job with that offense. And I thought his dad, Bill, would have done a much better job with the offensive line. I know they're not a great offensive line. It's been super disappointing. Cam Ward is running for his life. If you have any Titan of any value, you're not getting anything for Chigakonkwo. And if you can get anything out of Ridley, wait until he has a decent game. Go get a third. Send Ridley and a third. Go get a second. Just get out of the Calvin Ridley business. And I'm fine if you want a taxi squad or if you're in a deeper league where maybe you start 3 or 4 wide receivers and you want to hang on to Aomanor, awesome. Do your thing. But I absolutely hate the pass catchers in Tennessee. It is brutal. And speaking of pass catchers that are brutal, the Bills went to the New York Jets, and owning or rostering a Bills pass catcher is going to be extremely frustrating week to week. You're going to have weeks where, like, Keon Coleman had a great week 1. Nothing. Literally nobody. Khalil Shakir. Nobody did anything of relevance. Dalton Kincaid. Dawson. I mean, just Dawson Knox. Nobody did anything. Coleman had a horrible game too. And this is going to happen with the Bills. This was a James Cook game. James Cook had 100+ yards rushing, had a couple of touchdowns. Even Josh Allen, I think he threw for $160, and then he chipped in with 60 rushing yards. And that's kind of the beauty of Josh Allen is that, he added 6 points with his legs. Because if not, that game's a real stinker. But because of his wheels, he made it a 12, depends on your scoring format, 12 or so point game in a game where he threw no touchdowns. But it is going to be extremely frustrating. And they've thrown first-round picks at this. They've thrown free agent cash at this. They brought Gabe Davis back. There's no – it's like they have no ace. They've got a fistful of deuces. They got 4 deuces and no ace. And you poker players will get that little take there. But going to be super frustrating. And if you can get out of them at their current value, what they're being valued at in the market, just wait until they have a decent game. Like, let Keon Coleman bounce back against a horrible Miami secondary and ship him. Go get somebody else. Go get a pick. Go get send him in a second. Go get a first if possible. I don't know that you're going to get a first for Keon Coleman. Be happy with the second you spent on drafting him. Get out of this passing game. If you're playing Bills, you want Josh Allen, quarterback 1 overall, and then you want James Cook. Everybody else can kick rocks. If you want to keep Ray Davis on the back of a roster because you have a 25-man roster, and you want to hang on to Ray Davis in case something happens to James Cook, totally get it. I am out of the pass catcher ownership of Bills. I'm out. The Patriots at Miami. This is your buy low notice on Travion Henderson. I know Ramondre Stevenson had a good game, but you can't convince me they spent a top 40 pick on Travion Henderson to not use him. And this feels like, I know Mike Vrabel's not Bill Belichick old, but this feels old, stodgy, doesn't play the rookie right away. You're kind of seeing that with RJ Harvey in Denver too. It's okay. Relax. A little Aaron Rodgers. Relax. Cream will rise to the top, and Travion Henderson will be just fine. And if you're not contending, or even if you are and have a deep quarterback room, now is the time to sell Tua. Now is the time. You're not going to get a better time. Probably after this week, because the Buffalo secondary isn't super good. I could see this game on Thursday night being somewhat of a shootout between the Dolphins and the Bills. Tua always kind of plays pretty good against the Bills early in the season. He kind of struggles late when it gets cold. But I'm selling Tua to a contender that just lost Burrow. They have concerns about J.J. McCarthy or Daniels or any of the quarterback injuries. Now's a great time, especially if you're not contending. And normally I would advocate for you getting a quarterback in return. I don't even care. Just get a 26 first. Get one 2026 first and then draft a rookie, because there's going to be 3 to 5, probably at least 3, if not 4 or 5 that go in the first round of next year's draft. So I'm getting out of the Tua business. I'm going to get a first, and I'm going to spend that first this upcoming draft season to add a quarterback. I like nothing about this. The Mike McDaniel likely going to be fired after this season. Tua's going to kind of be there because they just gave him a ton of money. I think unless you want to take what Denver took with Russell Wilson and just take this monstrous salary cap hit, which some teams are more than happy to do. You see the Falcons doing it right now with Kirk Cousins. They're just like leaving him on the roster to rot as the highest paid backup in NFL history. So go find the Burrow GM in your league and go get his first for Tua and just get out of the Tua business. Horrible. Let's go to a game that I was watching because I was in Cincinnati, and that was the local game of the moment. Jags went to the Bengals, and everybody is so concerned about Trevor Lawrence, and I just don't get it. I'm going to do his pass completions and attempts last, but he threw for 271 yards and 3 touchdowns. 271 and 3 is a really good week, especially in week 2, where a lot of guys you would have loved. I just talked about Josh Allen. You would have loved to have gotten 271 yards and 3 touchdowns. But here's the thing. There were at least 4 drops, and 2 of the drops, the one to Diami Brown in the end zone was an absolute walk-in touchdown drop. The one to Brian Thomas Jr. that he alligator armed it. I don't know that he gets in on that, but it was like the ball hit his hand somewhere around the 5. So if he takes like one big step and dives toward the goal line, maybe he gets in. And then what are we talking about Trevor Lawrence? We're talking about 300 plus yards and 4 touchdowns. And this isn't a conversation. But for me personally, and it's odd because I was watching my boy Matty Kiwoom and my boy Evan Ringler on the Game Plan podcast, which streams live on Wednesday nights right before this podcast. And Evan was talking about buying BTJ, Brian Thomas Jr. I'm getting out of the Brian Thomas Jr. business. I don't like guys that are quitters. And this is a points per game thing, and obviously we're chasing upside, but you know what? I went to the player profiler rankings, and like right now, straight up, even money, give me Drake London. Give me Drake London. I'm totally fine. And they're like, I believe it was 6 and 7 in the Dynasty rankings. I don't know that you get Drake London. I know Drake London's a little banged up. Give me Drake London for Brian Thomas Jr. Give me Nico Collins. Give me Nico Collins over Brian Thomas Jr. I'll take JSN. And if you listen to this show for any length of time, you know I am not a huge JSN guy. But you know what? He gets the volume. He catches the ball. Touchdowns are a happy accident with him, and I love it. But I'll take JSN. I am getting out of the Brian Thomas Jr. I can handle a lot of things. I can handle drops. I can handle inconsistencies. I cannot, as both an athlete, a coach, and a Dynasty GM, I cannot tolerate lack of effort and giving up on plays. That's not something that very rarely corrects itself. It's like, I don't know what's going on. I've not seen a lot of this out of Brian Thomas Jr., but I'll just take points for points. And long-term, over the course of their careers, I don't think there's going to be a huge difference between Drake London, Nico, JSN, and Brian Thomas Jr. And that's if Brian Thomas Jr. gets his shit straight. Will he get his shit straight? I do not know, but just not the kind of guy I'd have on my team, whether it's the baseball team that I coach or my dynasty teams. But I'm not giving him away, guys. Don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not giving him away. I'm not trading him for Terry McLaren and a pack of bubble gum. I want an even swap, and I want to get out of the BTJ business. Although I will say, if you're into BTJ, and you very well could be into BTJ, I like the Trevor Lawrence press conference today on Wednesday. Kind of went old school Aaron Rodgers, like I just did, a little relax. He was like, hey, we'd love to get off to a faster start, but you know what? We're going to be good. And that's what you want the quarterback. That's what you want your quarterback to say in a situation like that, to be quite honest. I'm still bullish on Trevor Lawrence. If you're bullish on BTJ, it's not a bad investment. It's just not an investment for me. I'd rather get out of that and get into something else. And then the last game before the break, and then I'll come back and do the final 8. 49ers at the Saints. Sell Spencer Rattler for any second. Any second. If the Joe Burrow GM doesn't want to pay the price for a Tua, you get any second-round pick for Spencer Rattler, you have done well. Because I just mentioned the quarterback class of 2026. Going to be 3 to 5 of them. And the Saints, if you haven't noticed, although feisty, not going to be very good. Their record's probably going to suck. And we've seen Aaron Jones go on injured reserve. Derrick Henry looked great the first game, didn't look great in the second game. It's coming to the end of the line for the class of 2017. Austin Eckler, RIP, pour one out for Austin Eckler. Tore his Achilles, he's probably done. Likely wind up in the content creation space, hopefully fantasy like us, but we'll see. He's a big proponent. But this is the Lord, whoever you pray to. He or she or whatever the hell has given you the opportunity to get out of Christian McCaffrey. Playing great, but you're playing with fire. If you're not contending, if you're not a serious contender, or maybe you've been struck by the injury bug and you lost a quarterback or two, this is your window. You can still get a first right now for Christian McCaffrey. And for a guy that, what is that? This is year 8, year 9. You get a first for that guy. If he's been on your dynasty league for a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, you've had him his entire career because you have a long-standing dynasty league, he has more than returned his investment to you as a dynasty gamer. What I'm going to do is tell you that what's an absolutely fantastic investment for your money if you're a DFS gamer is the DFS Dominator.
So let's put our hoodie on and let's talk about Player Profiler's DFS Dominator. It has a cash game optimizer that leverages the projections from Billy and Bradley and Evan and that Player Profiler AI engine to create cash game lineups that certainly have a high floor, but also give you that ceiling. Now, you've probably heard about the most powerful tool of all, our Lineup Genius. We know winning GPPs requires a completely different approach, which is why our Lineup Genius takes you through the process of selecting the quarterbacks in the juiciest matchups. Then it highlights the stacks and runbacks that are available, lets you pick the chalk level, lets you pick the level of correlation with a number of other proprietary settings available to you. Click a button and it generates hundreds of lineups to be imported into FanDuel and DraftKings. And it's just $45 a year, not a week, a year. So go fight fire with a Player Profiler DFS Dominator.
There you go. Again, if you're looking to get into the action because your dynasty team is on the injury rocks, great opportunity. Check out the DFS Dominator. And I said it last week, guys, I'm a big math guy. You wouldn't think it by looking at me, but I do love math, and it makes everything in life a little bit simpler. It's like you hit on one of these DFS entries using that DFS Dominator, you're on a free roll for the rest of the year, and I absolutely love a good free roll. All right, let's jump into this back half of the week, the back half of 16 games. Browns at Ravens, and I was encouraged by what I saw for Quinshon Judkins, but I'm not overpaying. I like that he was involved in the passing game. I like that he had 3 receptions. I like that he had the majority of the carries and the yardage, but this is a bad offense. So if you want to get him now, Judkins in hopes that he can be a long-term piece of your dynasty roster, I'm here for it. Good football player, borderline great. He's just not going to be great this year because the offense is not going to be great. Again, very encouraging to see him involved in the passing game. I don't think Dylan Sampson's going anywhere. Going to kind of be a pain in the ass. So don't go out and overpay. If you want to go give a first for Judkins, because the GM that currently has him paid a first, I'm fine with that. But don't start stacking players and pieces, because we like running backs, but we hate running backs on bad teams. And then my other note from this team and from this game, and the bigger note from this game, is Zay Flowers is a dynasty wide receiver 1. And that doesn't mean you have to pay dynasty wide receiver 1 prices for him, but he is. He is currently on the season wide receiver 5 in PPR. And the dude is the only reliable target for Lamar. Mark Andrews, super inconsistent. Rashad Bateman on a milk carton. DeAndre Hopkins is fine. He just catches touchdowns at this point in his career. He'll steal a TD here or there, but it's all about Zay Flowers. And then you go to the most trusted dynasty rankings in the game, Player Profiler, and we have him as wide receiver. No, I say we, the collective the royal we at Player Profiler. We collectively have him as wide receiver 21, but it's like, guys, long as Lamar's healthy, and he's only 20, not quite 28, you're looking at several years of dominance with Zay Flowers, and he's just not seen as a wide receiver 1. Go get Zay Flowers. Like, if I could move Brian Thomas Jr. for Zay Flowers and like a 26 second and a 27 first, because I think that's a trade you could get done. I'm done. I'm in. I'm sold. Because Brian Thomas Jr. is considered, a top 7 wide receiver, and I'm taking little old Zay Flowers. He's just a wide receiver 21. Give me a couple of picks. You can have BTJ. I'm in on Zay Flowers. Drafted him in a ton of spots, a ton of startups this past year. Wherever you're at on Zay Flowers, you're not high enough. Bears at Lions. This is one where I'm actually kind of glad that Jerry's not here, because then I have to hear about the Lions and, Hawaii Blue and all that other happy horse shit. But I'm going to start with this, because if you watched the hot takes a couple of weeks ago, I was out on Rome Odunze, and I was wrong. I was wrong. I can get this out of the way. I don't have to wait to the end of the season and say I was right on Rome Odunze, because the only way I'm going to be right is if Rome gets hurt. He's going to finish in the top 24. Rome wasn't built in the day. My take was, and it was off. So Rome Odunze, he is the preferred target of Caleb Williams. But what the hell's going on with Colston Loveland and the Bears? It's like, I didn't get it at the time, taking Loveland over Warren, but okay. You're drafting traits, you're drafting younger, 2 years younger, you're drafting athleticism. Okay. But you're the Bears, right? You're drafting to help your young quarterback, so you get him a weapon. Cool. Why isn't he involved? I mean, the architect of Sam Laporta's rookie year is the head coach. Why is Colston Loveland not involved? It gives me concern. Not Kyle Pitts level concern, but it gives me concern. It's like, why is he not involved? Is he struggling to pick up the offense? I know he's a great athlete. Is he the next Mike Gesicki? Is he going to be a great athlete who's underutilized? I personally don't know, but I'm personally concerned. Player Profiler has him in the top 8 of a dynasty startup, and that's risky business. If I could get out of the Colston Loveland business and get Jake Ferguson for the rest of this year and a pick, because in a tight end premium league, you likely spent a first-round pick on Colston Loveland. Yeah, I will send Colston Loveland and a second for Jake Ferguson and a first, and I'll do that today. I'll do that right now. I don't know that you get it done. Maybe you get it done, but I'm not going to look back. Nothing against Colston Loveland. He could turn out to be fine, or he could turn up to be a very underutilized first-round pick, which would be a very Bears thing to do. Let's go to one to put a big smile on my face, and that was the Broncos at the Colts. And I won't get into specifics of the deal, but I'm in a league with J.J. Zacharyson. It's a 14-team league. It's a super flex league. So as you can imagine, quarterbacks are at a premium, especially with all the injuries going on. Well, if you've listened to the show for any length of time, you know that Daniel Jones, by percentage, is my most rostered quarterback in all of my leagues. My sleeper leagues, my roster exposure is like 33%, which is great because all I play is super flex. So JJ came with an offer, and I'm like, dude, that's too low. You can come up with some more because Daniel Jones is now a 2 to 3 year safe dynasty asset. He is. Just like Sam Darnold. Whether he stays with the Colts next year or not, I do not know. But I know he's good enough. Their schedule is bad enough. And I believe enough in Shane Steichen and these weapons that the Colts are going to win 8 to 10 games, probably closer to 11, and they'll push to win that division. And whether it's in Indy or someone else, someone's going to give Daniel Jones the Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold deal. He's going to get 3 for 100 to 125 million. And so if you want to go acquire Daniel Jones, you think you can get him, quote unquote, somewhat cheap. Remember, he plays in a dome at least 9 times. Now, this year they have the Germany game, but like on a normal season, with the 17 games, one year they play 9 home games. The next year they play 8 home games. But they always play in Houston. That's a dome game. They always play a game in Jacksonville. Unless it rains, that's a good weather game. He's going to be in a good environment, and he's looked great. Now, I didn't get too high when he played great against the Dolphins because the Dolphins are shit. And I wasn't going to get too low when he played what I anticipated was to be a little rough against a good defense in Denver. He did not. And you look at the weapons, you look at Pittman, Downs, Pierce. Pierce still involved to a funky degree. Was kind of expecting Adonai Mitchell to push a little bit. And then you got Jonathan Taylor running it out of the backfield. Danny Dimes is a safe bet, guys. So go get him. And this is why you, again, I'm always going to rehash this because it bears repeating. It's like, this is why in the offseason, we always pick up those throwaway quarterbacks. Like, could you imagine if you had Mac Jones right now? If you didn't cast him away and you kept him, he's got real value right now. He's got value to the Brock Purdy GM. If you're the Joe Burrow GM and you had Mac Jones, guess what? You've at least got a short-term stopgap solution. That's why we keep these formerly high-drafted picks. It's like, go get Anthony Richardson. If Danny Dimes keeps this up, won't be a Colt next year, but Anthony Richardson will get an opportunity somewhere else. Why? Talented guy, good athlete, and another offensive coach is going to have the ego to think that he could fix him. Cardinals at Panthers. And Marvin Harrison Jr. is who I should have put the Rome Odunze hot take on. On the season, Marvin Harrison Jr. is wide receiver 39, and he's only averaging 5.5 targets a game. And Marvin Harrison Jr. has a smaller percentage of his team's target share than Jake Ferguson does on the Cowboys. And Jake Ferguson's only competing for targets with George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb. And in Arizona, Marvin's only competing with Trey McBride, and he's only getting a 20% target share. It should be significantly higher, given his talent, given his draft capital, but it ain't. And I mentioned good people, bad tweets. There's not this emphasis to feed him. If you can get out of him, and on Player Profiler, he's wide receiver 19. If you can use those rankings to go get Zay Flowers, go get Zay Flowers. Say, hey, dude, I'm giving you this stud. Maybe you have an Ohio State fan in your league. Go out and see what you can do. I missed the take. I own the take on Rome Odunze. I wish I had put that take on Marvin Harrison because Rome looks great and Marvin looks just like he did last year. And now we're talking about, what is that? A 19-game sample size. I don't think it's getting better. I think it's going to be Mott's. More of the same. Eagles at the Chiefs. And gang, this is your dynasty life as a GM in Dynasty with Eagles. You're begging for A.J. Brown to do what he did a couple of years ago and whine and complain and become the pseudo play caller so that he can get fed over the next couple of weeks. But kind of like this is the deluxe version of the Bills, right? There's just going to be games where there's like A.J. Brown in 2 games has 6 catches for 30-some yards. That ain't it. And there's rumors that the Eagles are trying to move him. They think they can win and compete for another Super Bowl without him. Maybe they move him to a New England. I know it's been said that Howie Roseman wants to move him to an AFC team. You don't want him in the NFC to come back and bite you in the ass. But they play the Rams this week, and this should be required more passing. Hope for a big A.J. Brown game, and hopefully you can get out of him. Again, because I'm doing this solo, I didn't go in and put like targets for everything. But again, if you can get Zay Flowers plus for A.J. Brown, I think you're going to do okay this season, and you're going to do okay long term. Falcons at Vikings. And I mentioned this at the top of the show, but J.J. McCarthy has to scare the absolute shit out of the Justin Jefferson GM, the Jordan Addison GM, the TJ Hawkinson GM, all of them in Dynasty. And this was the scare. This was the fear that everyone had last year about Sam Darnold. Except last year, Sam Darnold was that dude, came in and threw 37 touchdown passes. Your hope as a GM of Jefferson, Addison, Hawkinson, the Vikings in general, is that Carson Wentz comes in, quote unquote, the ankle injury keeps the rookie. I guess he's a pseudo rookie. He's not technically a rookie. He's a second year guy playing his first couple of games, but it's got to scare the shit out of you if you were counting on Justin Jefferson in a win now team. Like I said, I don't think you're going to see JJ again until week 7. Hopefully he figures some things out. He's a new dad. Congratulations to him. Being a dad's awesome. So hopefully that gets him back on track and leaves me with the 2 Monday night games. Bucks at the Texans. Guys, one thing about Uncle Memphis here is never, ever going to like lock into a take. One of my favorite memes that I post is a picture of barbed wire and someone grabbing it with a fist, and it says, "Don't hold on to a mistake just because you spent a lot of time making it." I was wrong about Emeka Egbuka. He is him. He is that dude. I said he was JSN, Jackson Smith and Jigba, and he is, but he's JSN with juice. He's JSN with touchdown juice. And having Mike Evans there is great for him. I think Chris Godwin coming back will be fine. It really won't impact him. I love Baker's talk on Egbuka. I missed it. You know, he's Terry McLaurin with style. I don't know. Terry McLaurin with better draft capital. Terry went in the 3rd round of the NFL draft. Egbuka, obviously a 1st rounder. I missed it. I mean, he is that dude. And again, I'll go back to Brian Thomas Jr. If I can get Emeka Egbuka and a 1st for Brian Thomas Jr., guys, it's points. What are we looking at over the course of their careers? One guy's in year 2, one guy's in year 1, and they're both going to average 15 to 18 fantasy points a game. Even if and that's with Brian Thomas Jr. getting shit back together after a rough first 2 weeks. I still pick up additional draft capital. And my last nugget from this game is CJ Stroud looks lost. Looks absolutely lost. And I'm concerned about this offense. They put up 10 points. I think they put up 9 against the Rams, and this was at home. And I saw a Texans beat writer today talking about how exciting it was to get Christian Kirk back and Braxton Berrios back. Gang, if you think Braxton Berrios and Christian Kirk are going to solve the Texans' offensive woes, you are sadly mistaken. And one more game. Chargers at the Raiders. Let's talk about Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert has went full Josh Allen. He has pulled a full Josh Allen impersonation on us. He's towards the top. I think he's either 1 or 2 in passing yards. I think Russ Wilson is 1, and I think Herbert is 2 in passing yards. And that was the knock, right? That was the fear with Justin Herbert, is that he's not going to pass the ball that much because he plays for Harbaugh. He plays for Jim Harbaugh. Well, that's not been true. And these are games that he's won. He's not even been behind yet. And the fact that he's adding 30 plus yards a game with his feet, that's almost an additional passing touchdown. Depends on your league scoring format. If you're a 4-point per passing touchdown league, that's 75% of a bonus touchdown with his feet. If he throws an interception, or has a fumble, his rushing yards are paying that tax. Most leagues give you a 2-point penalty with a guy who has a turnover, and Justin Herbert's gone for full Josh Allen, and Quentin Johnston's emerged. He's not dropping the ball as much. Keenan Allen's back. I think it's had a little bit of an impact on Ladd McConkey, but we got to start talking about Justin Herbert again, getting him back into the top 5 conversation of the quarterback position. So I'm going to flip over because, again, guys, I'm a one-man band over here. No Jerry. He has, as of yet, with 10 minutes to play, he has as of yet to do his Stone Cold Steve Austin-esque run in, and maybe he will, maybe he won't. But I got a couple of things. I was looking at my show sheet, and I forgot to mention in the Colts game, I am totally fine if you put Tyler Warren as your dynasty tight end 1. I have zero problem with that. Like I said, I think Danny Dimes is going to be there for the foreseeable future. He's clearly a focal point of this offense, and my concern going into the season wasn't that he was going to be bad. It was going to be the distribution of targets. I've seen enough. He's going to be involved. And it's hard to compare anybody to Rob Gronkowski. He'll never be the greatest statistical tight end of all time, but for a short period, he was the best tight end of all time. And it wasn't even close. And Gronk was never healthy. He came out of the University of Arizona with some back issues. He was never, quote unquote, fully healthy. But somewhere in the vein of Rob Gronkowski, Gronk, we'll go with Gronk. With Gronk and George Kittle, that's what I'm seeing with this kid. Got the hair flowing in the breeze. Shout out to my homie Brittany. Always comes through clutch with the YouTube thumbnails. And I'm going to look through these questions. And then at the end, I'm going to try to answer a couple of questions. Where's Fannin rank? This is Geist. Geist says, where does Fannin rank? 6, 7 to 10, somewhere in there. I will rank Fannin a little bit higher when Njoku's out of town. Big Mo. Is it Big Mo? Like as in like all one word, 2 syllables, or is it Big Mo? Like I'd hang out with a dude named Big Mo. It just feels like that'd be good people. Traded Kyler Murray and Keenan Allen for Herbert. Still has Amon-Ra, BTJ, Olave, Pittman, A.O. Manor, 10-team league. I think it's great. Better offense, more consistent in Justin Herbert. I think there'll be some spike games with Kyler, but consistent week in, week out. Big Mo. I'm going with Big Mo. Big Mo, you did good. Let's see here. Can draft 2 as replacement with the first. Bingo. Geist picked up what I'm putting down. Cameron Myers. I love Cameron Myers, one of our loyal patrons. All right. I have 4 firsts in the next 2 drafts. What should I be doing moving forward? Losing. Unless your roster was just stacked to begin with, you just want to lose. You want your first especially to be as high as possible, and you just want to stack this team. Cameron's also one of our patrons, so I'll be sure to help Cam with his draft. I love him. We are homies. So that's one of the things about being a Patreon at patreon.com/Dynasty WarZone. And then lastly, Cameron says, what about Marv and a first for London? Yeah. Hopefully the worst of those four. But I just wouldn't give up what you think would be the best. But yes, I would give up a first and Marvin Harrison, and I would absolutely go get Drake London. You're probably going to get him fairly cheap because he's banged up. But again, this is Dynasty. And if you have 4 first, your team's probably bad. And if your team's probably bad, you really don't care if Drake London puts up points this year or not. You just want him to be healthy long-term so you can use him and the rest of those first to get that team on track, Cam. Last one, and then I'm going to answer. I'm going to share a story time with Uncle Memphis. Franz, salute Franz, a loyal supporter of the show, and we appreciate you. Would you trade AJ Brown for Flowers and a 26-second half-point PPR? That's close for me, Franz. It really is. I'm that high on Zay Flowers, and it's nothing against A.J. Brown. It's just the offense. Again, I'm not anti-player. I'm anti-situation, and that's served me well in my dynasty career. I would spend that, Franz. I would spend that. Send Flowers in a second, your second. I'm sorry, send A.J. Brown in your second for Flowers in a first, if you can get that kind of a deal done. If not, wait until A.J. Brown has a monster game this week because he's going to be in more of a shootout, and they'll need him to be more involved, and then you can go make that deal. But I'm angle shooting for a first there. So I'm wrapping this thing up. I'm getting out of here, and I'm really impressed. I was able to ramble on for an hour, but when I know I'm flying solo, I'm always going to do a lot more pre-show prep as opposed to pulling up information as we go along. But this last thing, I totally might give him a shout out, and that's one of my jiu-jitsu teammates, Max. Love Max. He's not really a jiu-jitsu guy. He is chasing his debut in MMA. Every time I get there, he's a young guy. I'm going to guess 20 to 22, somewhere in that range. Really good athlete. And he's working boxing, and then he finishes the boxing class and he goes to the jiu-jitsu class. Cause if you're into MMA, you understand the first M is mixed, right? It's not just martial arts, it's mixed, so he's working on his wrestling. He's working on his jiu-jitsu. He's working on his boxing. But last Wednesday I was leaving. He's like, "Hey, where are you going?" Cause I came in for open mat, get some rounds in myself. And then I have to, head on home because I got to do this podcast for you fine people. And he's like, "Where are you going?" It's like, "I'm going to do my podcast." He's like, "Oh, what's podcast on?" I was like, "I do a fantasy football podcast." And he's like, "Oh, okay." So tonight, same thing, same drill. I get there, wrapping up my live rounds. I'm grabbing a quick shower, heading home, again, doing this podcast for you lovely people. And Max stops me and he's like, "Hey, can I ask you a fantasy football question?" I'm like, yeah, of course, sure. He's like, "Alvin Kamara or Tyler Algier at running back this week?" And I was like, "PPR?" And he looked at me like I had a dick on my forehead. And I just smiled. He's like, "PPR?" And I was like, "Yeah, points per reception." He's like, I don't even know what that means. And come to find out, it seems as if young Max is dipping a toe in fantasy football. So I thought that was great. He's going to check. I was like, "Look, it's always Alvin Kamara and PPR. You guys know this. You listen to the show. Alvin Kamara, I like to use the term, he's a bucket. Like if you look at a guy in basketball who can just score, you look at him, you go, that dude's a bucket because he's going to give you points. And that's Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara and PPR just going to get you a bucket. He's going to get you 3 or 4 catches. He's going to get you 60 yards. He's going to get you 12 to 14. If he trips and falls in the end zone, it's a really good week with Alvin Kamara. So it was funny. And then Max, if you tuned into this, like you said, and I'm trying to say this without laughing and like ruining the audio content of the show, my real name's Randy. You can call me Memphis too. It's fine. It's fine. For like the last 3 months, I've let this poor kid call me Brian. In super kind, super respectful kid, especially for someone as talented as he is as an athlete and working on his game. He treats an old guy like me with a lot of respect. And it's just like an internal joke to myself. I'm like, how long can I let this kid call me Brian before he figures out my name's Randy? But you know what, Max, if you saw this, because I told you I'd shout you out, I love you, and keep working on your MMA career. And guys, keep working on those dynasty rosters. Keep hustling. If you're 0-2, you're not out of it, but now starting to be the time where you got to be honest with yourself. It's like, this roster needs work. This roster's not it. As the kids would say, it's chopped. If your roster's chopped or your chances are chopped, it's time to start making moves. Start thinking about those Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, those aging vets, Devontae Adams coming off of a good game. Start thinking about those guys and think about guys who were drafted with a teen in their draft year. Guys drafted in 2017, Christian McCaffrey. 2015, Mike Evans, Devontae Adams. Now Odell Beckham Jr. was in that wide receiver class. He's out of the league. So start thinking about those guys that were drafted in the 19s even late 20s. The NFL stands for not for long. And you only get so many big cash out windows with those aging bets because right now they're worth points. But as we know, the point satisfaction does not stick around for long. I'm going to get out of here. I just looked at the timer. We just rolled over 1 hour. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for the questions. The Wednesday night thing, we don't ever get as much traction, but we have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people watching this right now, and I could not be more appreciative. I'll cuss Jerry out for you guys. I'll tell him to get his candy ass back here next week, and we will do the Dynasty WarZone. I will not be on Sleep Stream Stash this week. I'll be celebrating an early anniversary trip with my wife, but be sure to tune in Friday, 3:30 p.m. with Evan Ringler and Johnny Tuma. They're going to get you through. They've threatened to look for a co-host. Hopefully the co-host doesn't do such a good job that I get replaced because I enjoy doing that show. Fast Draft, use the promo code WarZone. Get in the game over there. Colorado's legal, so I'll be drafting Thursday, Friday, Saturday for Fast Draft for Quick Six this weekend. Again, promo code WarZone. Get that match. And patreon.com/Dynasty WarZone. You want to be like Cameron? You want to hang out? You want to talk Dynasty? You want to DM back and forth with your boy? That's where you do it. It's still only $5 a month. I mean, that's like half a Starbucks. Check it out. Check out everything. Enjoy the season. And until next week, as I like to say, catch your ass down the road.
Hey, I want to thank you for being part of this broadcast. If you have any thoughts on it, leave a comment. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like. And if you want to see more shows on the Player Profiler channel, subscribe to it. That's how we know you want more.